you ready to explore the world? Travel to exotic locations.
Welcome, everybody, to Podcast 4, the Christmas episode of the Black Dog Confessional.
I can't believe we've made it to 4.
Yeah, I can't either.
It's clear.
We gotta get our guest in on the video up here. We don't. But we got a guest with us today. His name's Chris.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm in the witness protection program, so I prefer not to be seen.
So I'm like listening to all sorts of things over here. Hold on.
Yeah, what a surprise. Steve's screwing it up.
I got all sorts of noise happening over here.
Good work.
All in my headphones and stuff. So anyway, we're here. We got a buddy named Chris with us. You'll be able to see him in a minute. Jesse's going to get him popped up on the screen. But we're going to be talking about, 2019 and what people are looking at as we go through the Christmas break here. We're going to be talking about all sorts of futuristic ideas, and I don't like to use the word resolution, but I like to use the idea of development and thinking ahead, and reasonable goals and reasonable time frames on what we're going to do with our life to develop ourselves. But like I said, we got a guest today.
Well, apparently you have optimism at the top of your resolution list.
I said I don't like to use the word resolution. I am that's just me, So, but we do have Redbird like usual. We got Jesse.
It's true.
And why don't you? This is Redbird's guest.
So this is my get. This is my get. Yeah, the last 2 have been yours, so I figured I'd get somebody this time. So I hollered at my boy Chris here. Chris has a really, really good inspirational message. I first met Chris actually at a food truck thing in West Melbourne.
Surprise, surprise.
I know there was food, so I went and I saw this big trailer, and I saw this stuffed bobcat, and then I saw a shirt that said Whiskey Tango. It's actually this one. Red, white, and blue. I said, I got to get that. So I go over with the intention of buying a shirt, making a purchase, and going back to my fried donuts. I end up having like a 30-minute conversation with Chris, and I walk out of this thing inspired to just be me and have fun and enjoy life. So I wanted to bring Chris on. I figured we were going into Christmas time, talking about happiness. Bring Chris on, let him tell a story a little bit about starting Whiskey Tango and some of the meanings behind it, and just let everybody enjoy it.
Cool.
So
on you,
Chris,
brother. Let's hear a little story.
Well, it's the Bobcat really that made the introduction to Chris and myself, and I knew when he said he was Chris, I knew that it was a match made in heaven, because everybody I know that's Chris has been very cool.
Oh,
so the Bobcat,
solid name.
It is, yeah, right. Our parents are really intelligent.
Right.
Yeah.
So 25 years ago. 25 years ago, I was in law enforcement in another county, and we use codes for everything, like most law enforcement agencies do. They originate from the NATO phonetic alphabet of Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. So with my squad, we use the code Whiskey Tango as a derogatory identifier for white trash. So I could be around people, and I could say, I'm 1012 Whiskey Tango. They didn't know I just called them that. But my friends knew, and it was fun for me, because in law enforcement, the general public is there for your enjoyment, and if you're not exploiting them, you're not having a good time. So that was the way we exploited that to humor ourselves. It was, not really meant to hurt anybody's feelings or offend anyone. It was just for us to get through a shift, so to speak. So over the years, I've been using Whiskey Tango with my friends and my girlfriend, and we could be in Walmart and actually point out some Whiskey Tango in aisle 3, and that was our code. Until 2 years ago.
There's obviously one right in front of me.
As soon as I walked into the food truck,
yeah.
Whiskey Tango.
When I get finished, you're going to say, yeah, that's me too. So 2 years ago, I'm coming back from Vero, and I find a Bobcat on the side of the road that got hit by a car. And I thought, and I'm kind of a redneck, and that's a pretty neat thing to have. I'm going to take it home and skin it, tan the hide, and I'm going to have a really cool Bobcat fur. It's just very unique. So I get home into Satellite Beach, and I have a Bobcat in my front yard, and it's dead. And I'm looking at it, and it is pristine. It's one of the most beautiful cats I've ever seen. And I thought it would be a disservice for me to experiment with this cat, and I really need to preserve it because it's one in a lifetime opportunity. So I go ahead and have it mounted and stuff and put on a log. bring it home, and my girlfriend sees this bobcat, and she's like really impressed with it and says, wow, that's amazing. How much did that thing cost you? And I tell her, she shakes her head and looks at me and goes, you paid $450 to stuff roadkill? She goes, you're Whiskey Tango. And then I realized that Whiskey Tango wasn't about the derogatory identifier that we had used it as, but Whiskey Tango was more of a pseudonym for the freedom to pursue happiness. Because I do things that are socially unacceptable at times or socially misunderstood, like ride my lawnmower down to my neighbor's house to drink a beer. But with my Whiskey Tango, yeah, laugh. Why do you think they put a beer holder on the fender?
I don't even mow my own grass, so
Yeah, you can't.
yeah. Okay, you've already mentioned picking up roadkill.
Yeah.
I don't do that. You've mentioned skinning an animal. I don't do that. And
Well, I'm not finished. I'm not finished.
And riding a lawnmower, and I definitely don't do that.
So I realize, though, I do things at times that people misunderstand. And when I do things that are perceived to be socially unacceptable, I'm having a good time. And as long as I'm not offending somebody else or I'm not infringing on their pursuit of happiness, I have the right to pursue happiness as I define it. So when my Whiskey Tango was coming out, I was having the best time of my life, and I didn't care what people thought. So the Whiskey Tango became a self-acceptance of who we are as a flawed individual, because I know I'm not perfect. So when I accepted the flaws about me, I realized there wasn't anything people could say about me that I didn't already accept about myself, and therefore they could never take away my happiness. So for people to accept the Whiskey Tango or to live the Whiskey Tango life is more of an acceptance in them, that they do things, but they're living for today. So the motto of Whiskey Tango is, it's in you, it's in all of us. Maybe not all the time, and I'm not asking you to be that all the time, because then you would live in a trailer park, which I know you don't do that either.
I definitely don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But the Whiskey Tango is, when it comes out, for whatever fleeting moment, however you define it, whether it's tattoos, whether it's bike week, whether it's going to a football game and you're parking in the parking lot for 3 days and you call it tailgating, whatever you define it as, it's or a hockey game.
Yeah, again, you went football. I
So-
figured I could find somebody who's a complete 180 of Steve, and I found him.
I was like, oh
Well,
my God.
even going to a Tampa Lightning game, I mean, if you go over there for a weekend and you tailgate, for me, I would call that a Whiskey Tango moment, because who the heck lives in a parking lot barbecuing like in a parking lot? I mean, that's your Whiskey Tango moment. Not everybody does it, and I know there's people that would frown upon that, but they don't understand the happiness that it brings to you. So whatever it is that brings you happiness that's not accepted by the status quo, that's really what Whiskey Tango is.
Yeah, I think I have no problem with whatever anybody does that makes them happy. It's on them. You know, I don't believe in infringing on anybody's personal right to make any decisions on what their hobbies are or any of that. There's things I enjoy. I can tell you that, like, my friends who go camping, have at it. My idea of camping is more glamping. You put me into something nice, I'm good with that. That's personal preference. It has nothing to do with anything else. And I think a lot of times we judge people based upon personal preference when that's really it's really their life. Well, I mean, why infringe upon their life? If that's what they want to do, then that's what they do. It doesn't mean anything on.
As long as what they're doing is not illegal or immoral.
Yeah.
Then I want to endorse them, and I want to support them for what they're doing. And again, I mean, we're great Americans, you know. We have the right to pursue happiness as we see fit. I like to say, I keep it in my yard. If what I'm doing, if I want to have a bonfire with pallets in my yard, you know, and it doesn't affect you, then that's fine. If you like it, come on over. If you don't like it, stay in your yard. I won't let my bonfire get into your yard. And if the fire department doesn't come by my house or BCSO, we're good.
Yeah.
But on your thought process on, there's a lot of people, you mentioned that you had worked in law enforcement before and you got out of it. At some point, I assume that you were no longer happy there, or you retired out, or how did that roll?
Well, that's quite of a story, because I went into law enforcement relatively young, very naive, and I was really kind of hoping that I thought my involvement in law enforcement was going to change my community and make it a better place. When I realized that what I was doing did nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. Like Chris would call me because there was people speeding on his street. So I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make it safer for Chris. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna run some traffic on Chris's street.
You're that guy. You are
Yeah.
that guy.
Well,
Okay.
he's the one that called because there's people speeding on the street and he's afraid that his kids are going to get hurt. So naively, I think
I love my kids.
I'm gonna
Maybe you don't. I do.
I'm gonna make Steve's or Chris's street safe for him and his kids, so he can barbecue, ride his lawnmower, not worry about getting mowed over when he's going to drink a beer at the neighbors, and this and that. So I sit and I run traffic on his streets, 25 miles an hour, and I get some woman at 3:30 in the afternoon coming home, and she's running 35 miles an hour. So I pull her over, and what do? I smell alcohol in her breath. Oh, guess what? She just came from happy hour at Chili's with her school teacher compadres. So now I have to take her to jail because she's DUI after going to happy hour and having not 3 but maybe 4 glasses of wine. And when I take her to jail, she screams and yells that I'm the asshole because I'm ruining her life, when really all I want to do was help Chris and help Chris's children. So she goes back. I'm going to lose my job. She tells all her school teacher friends that I'm the asshole that took her to jail, and all her school teacher friends began to hate cops because of what I tried to do for him. It was like that all the time. I never went to people's houses and said, hey, we're having a barbecue. Why don't you come over? I go over there because they're getting beat by their wife, and I couldn't take the negativity anymore. It was constant. All I wanted to do was make the world a better place, and I couldn't. I couldn't do it in that capacity. Maybe with very few people that I came in contact with. So I had a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and our school district needed substitutes. And the superintendent reached out to the sheriff's office and said, anybody with education, come and be a substitute. So my shift was 3 to 11, and I thought, you know what, I can do that during the day. I don't have to fight over extra duty details. This is easy money. There's no competition. Okay. So I started teaching middle school. I go to middle school as a substitute teacher, and these kids were just enamored with me. They wanted to hear all the stories about what I had experienced on the street and the way my life was. And they were so optimistic, and their eyes were wide open, and they were so joyful. Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And I couldn't get enough of that. And I found that the impact that I was making at the school district was far larger than the 4 or 5 or 6 calls I handled at night that were tragic, that were always just terrible. So I started teaching on a regular basis, substituting. And while I was at school, I was the cop. And then I go 10-8, and I'm riding around in my patrol car, and I'd go to the neighborhoods where these kids lived, and they would run over to my patrol car, and they're like, that's my teacher. That's my teacher. The roles had changed, and suddenly they're telling me with trust who's committing burglaries, who's selling dope, who's doing all these crimes.
Yeah.
So I'm calling the detective bureau. I'm clearing all these crimes in the south end of our county because that's my zone. And they're like, how's this happening? And then I saw the nexus between my relationship at the school and being law enforcement. And I tried to tell my small agency that, look, you need to put some SROs in there that are effective because those kids will trust them. If those kids trust you and they believe in you, they'll tell you anything and everything you want. And we have an in. You want an undercover guy? Man, he's right there in this school. I mean, he was unbelievable. So, no, needless to say, they didn't want to go with progressive ideas like that. And I didn't get to work in the school as a deputy. I just worked in the school. And then over a year doing that, I just thought, you know what, this is a much better life. I get to work 9 months. It was 190 days a year that I worked, had all the vacations off, got paid the exact same as a sheriff's deputy. I didn't have to go to the range, every 6 months to qualify. I didn't have to do all these other things, and it was just a better life. I got to spend time with my family. I was home at night. I wasn't called into court. I wasn't getting yelled at by school teachers for taking them to jail because they were DUI. It was such a wonderful life. So I started teaching middle school. I taught 13 years, and then here I am.
So that's what I want to get. So how does the idea of Whiskey Tango then morph into your clothing, your stickers, your lifestyle brand? Like how does that come about?
Well, when I was a deputy, we were trying to have fun. And when I went to the academy, somebody said the general public is there for your enjoyment. You need to, they just said that. And I said, I need to exploit that. Well, while I was teaching middle school, I had a principal who would close the morning announcements every day with, make it a great day or not, The choice is yours. I thought that's really empowering.
That's a solid message.
He gave me the power to make it a great day. I can choose what kind of day I want. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to choose to make every day Saturday, because that's my favorite day, and I'm going to choose to exploit the general public for my enjoyment. So when I opened up Whiskey Tango, when I realized that it was all about the pursuit of happiness, everything just really tied together at that precise moment that Whiskey Tango is about living like every day is Saturday, like having a good time. And if you're not having fun, you're not living life right. Life's not meant to be hard. Life's meant to be fun, you know? And if you're not enjoying what you're doing, why do it? Why do it?
Solid.
All right, cool. We'll touch on that as soon as we get back from break.
Are you ready to explore the world? Travel to exotic locations and live your best life with Anytime Travel Solutions. Anytime Travel Solutions are your worldwide, unbiased concierge with access to real inventory of hotels, cruises, railroads, tours, and all of the best excursions. Anytime Travel Solutions realizes how fun it is to plan your own vacations. So we have the option to search vacations and book safely on our website, or you can visit us in our conveniently located offices in downtown Melbourne, Florida. Did you know travel is proven to benefit your health, both physically and mentally? We have 3 decades serving travelers and making dreams come true. So ask yourself, if not now, when? Call Ceci today to begin your adventure. Dial 321-779-4285 or visit anytimebookings.com. That's anytimebookings.com.
All right, in the studio, breaking news. This guy literally just broke down the door. He's got incredible news. His name is John Adams with the Fix Therapy. John, what's so important? What's going on?
Well, we've got some exciting stuff to talk about.
Well, tell me, what do you have to share?
Well, I've got a brand new podcast coming to you called The Live Life Aware, where we're going to be discussing all kinds of fun topics like biohacking.
Whoa.
Yes. We're going to be talking about integrated medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be talking about some really new hot topics in Florida with medical marijuana and CBD.
I see. Well, that sounds exciting. So what else can the listener expect?
Well, fun facts of the body. Did you know that one red blood cell carries 1 billion oxygen molecules?
That's a lot. I had no idea.
Yeah, so if you looked up into the night sky,
right,
you could take every little star and put them on one red blood cell.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So all kinds of trivia, surprise guests, and things that you're not going to hear about just hanging out in your family practitioner's doctor's office.
Absolutely. We're going to be talking about all the stuff you're not listening or hearing from maybe your general practitioner.
Amazing. All right. Thanks so much, John. Live Life Aware, guys, coming soon from the Space Coast Podcast Studios.
You're listening to the Space Coast Podcast Network. If you'd like to be featured as a guest or sponsor or even host your own show, please email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. That is spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. Space Coast Podcast. Talk hard.
Marv, what are you doing?
Where is it?
Yeah, never mind it, you get here. How do you like it, huh? You jerk! Get the kid, Brooke! Get that kid! Oh.
Let's get it!
Wait. It's just what he wants us to do. It's to go back downstairs through his funhouse so we get all tore up.
You gotta call the cops!
He's not calling it from a treehouse! No, go back! Oh, go back! No! Hiya, pal. Get over here. I'll do exactly what he did to us. First thing I'm gonna do is bite off every one of these little fingers, one at a time.
Hey, you know, we've been looking for you two guys for a long time.
Yeah. Now remember, we're the wet bandits. Wet bandits.
We're the wet bandits.
All right, we're back. Obviously, that was a clip from Home Alone. We're going to be dropping in some clips throughout as we come back from break of our favorite Christmas movies. That, I believe, who was yours? Chris? Was that yours?
That was mine, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just introduced my kids to it, my 8-year-old, my 5-year-old to that movie last week, and now all I hear all day is can we watch Home Alone? And my 5-year-old runs around pointing stuff at me and going, keep the change, you filthy animal. All right, buddy, you can say that here. Don't say that at school.
Yeah.
I don't know how well it's going to go over in your VPK class.
You know, it was funny. One of the things you had brought up was about school resource officers back, but you said you got out of law enforcement in 96.
96 was when I left.
So, you know, it's interesting because you got out in 96. I graduated in 97. High school, that is. High school. Just want to point that out. Chris, what year did you graduate?
99.
Okay. So, not saying nothing, but but, you know, I think the take in law enforcement has kind of changed with that. I mean, obviously, school resource officers are like extremely hot button topic now, but due to things like Marjorie Stone, what year did Columbine happen?
Yeah,
That was
in the
99,
90s. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when that all started, then we started seeing a change. I think now, like your perspective from the 1990s is a little bit different than my perspective today. I'm a little bit of an optimist, though. So it is what it is. I think that there's back in the time, the 90s, early 2000s, even up into, I would say like maybe 2005, 2006. There was a lot of we keep everything here, close to chest. We don't go to the schools. We don't do community policing. We don't do that stuff. It was very limited the amount of stuff we did. Nowadays, the big focus is community policing. It is getting that emotional buy-in, like you brought up. You got emotional buy-in from the kids in school because they saw you every day. They recognized you. So then when they saw you out there, it was a totally different change. I think now that's kind of more the focus than the old, hey, you know, get out there, do what you got to do, put some people in jail, and that's it. And if anybody asks you what you're doing, you tell them no comment and go away. Nowadays, it's totally different. I mean, it's all about community orientation because of the fact that a good example, if a lot of our local, we'll call them politicians because, I mean, sheriff's an elected official, even people who are hired as chiefs, they have to go through a city council, so they know how to go there and play the game and shake the hand and kiss the baby.
That's how you do that? It's not shake the baby, kiss the hand?
That's why you're still here
I'll
and not
probably
up here.
never get elected
just,
anything.
Just saying. No. But, you know, there's a total different change now. Now it's all about getting that community buy-in, that emotional buy-in that you are getting from the school systems. And, you know, you're right. There is, I can name off 4 or 5 SROs off the top of my head that whenever something happens in the area that I work, I could pick up the phone and call them, and they'll be like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, we're talking about that. It's these guys. They're the one doing the burglary, or they're the one doing this. But, you know, in that era, there was a lot of, hey, we've always done it this way. We're going to keep doing it this way. And there wasn't that progressive thought.
You just got to go if you want to get
I hear you.
Because he's not going to stop. It's like merging into I-95 traffic. You just got to go.
It's funny because ultimately, when I saw SROs going in, it wasn't about community relations. It was about education, and the whole education at the time was the DARE program. the drug awareness, resistance, and education. So that's why the SROs were in there. They weren't trying to be liaisons and facilitators between the school kids and the community. They were going in there to start these programs to teach kids how to stay away from drugs. When the Reagans were in, they were all about the DARE program. The drug awareness was in the 80s when Reagan was president, which you weren't that old yet, so I don't expect you to remember.
But I do have a giant poster in my office that's signed by Ronald Reagan, so I just like to point that out.
Hey, that's all. You're a
great communicator.
You're a great American, is all I'm saying.
Great communicator.
But that was the trend at the time, was the education about drugs not making the relationships. Now, as I was going through the 80s or through the 90s, there was a lot of friction between law enforcement and the minority communities. So law enforcement then tried to bridge the gap for an understanding with the community leaders, the people that had maybe the ear of their residents in that particular community.
Pastors,
yes.
reverend
So
people,
that was, when I was there, that was the real first thing that I saw bridging that gap into community. And then the very next couple of years, they went into community-oriented policing. They called it the COPE unit, where we were riding bicycles. But if you look back on times, this is a pendulum swing to when the first beat cops were. They were assigned in New York City to walk the streets. People weren't in patrol cars as mobile as we were, and they had just these very small areas where they walked the same blocks, and they got to know everybody, and the people in the community got to know them. As a deputy, when I was there, that's exactly what I tried to do, was bridge that gap and make relationships, because I wasn't out there to bust chops, take people to jail. I really did want to make my community better. So instead of taking people to jail or looking for crime all the time, I would go to these high crime areas, get out of my patrol car, and try to hang out with my brothers.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you do that, again, you cultivate that relationship. People are more apt to talk to you about it.
And you know what? You can see what's going on. If the most, or is it what do they say? The best hiding place is the most obvious.
Right.
So when you get out into the community, into those areas of high crime, and you stand there amongst them, you can see who's buying the dope. You can see who's slinging the dope. You can see who's doing the prostitution. You can see who's got other issues going on. If they're dealing in stolen property, who's showing up in a slide, that's joyriding in a stolen car.
Right. But I'm familiar with the term.
You got to go back to your Urban Dictionary and try and figure it out real quick. That was.
I mean, it's not a term anyone's used in the last 20 years.
I know. I was like, I think I saw that on Miami Vice, or like a rerun.
My friends call me, "You want to slide?" What?
I get excited. I think we're going to the park.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it's funny because you
look at this horrible mental image of you going down a slide, and I just
what, fat guy on a slide? That's your problem.
Now I see a water parking.
We'll do it. We're in it. I'm in it. But it's interesting because I think there was a time where in law enforcement, a lot of people were getting burnt out because they were constantly seeing negative. There was no interaction with the positive unless you were forcibly doing it yourself, because like I said, a lot of agencies were very close to chest. We don't do that stuff. But a lot of that's transitioned now to a point where, we were constantly involved in developing that emotional intelligence, as in the Goldman theories of, leadership and all that goes. Where like we could sit down, and for me, when I first got into law enforcement in 2003, we were still a little close to chest, and we weren't really getting involved like we do today. And I started doing charity work as a way to even it out. Like you were talking about your pursuit of happiness and all that. For me, you start seeing a lot of the negatives. Nobody wants to see a dead baby. Nobody wants to see that. I can guarantee you, we could sit down and I can say, can you specifically tell me what you saw the first time you saw a dead baby? And you're going to say, yes, I can remember that exact moment, and I can tell you what I saw and how I felt. But we have to figure out a way to keep it even keel. Otherwise, we do wind up getting into that mode where we get disgruntled. Everything's a negative. We can't find a way to even it out. So for me, which is obviously why cop life expectancy is like 5 years after retirement and all these other things, because they put so much stress on their body, keeping all that in, or whatever. It causes divorces. It causes everything else that goes along with that negativity that surrounds your life. And then when you go into that pursuit of happiness, for me, like I said, I started doing charity work. So I started working with St. Baldrick's. I started working with Children's Advocacy Center. I started working with all these groups that were doing some of the stuff that I couldn't do because I was just one person. Fortunately now, the mentality with law enforcement is we're going to be working towards, as a group towards that, as a family towards that community buy-in, because you don't want a situation where law enforcement is looked at, or maybe even a specific agency, because we could probably name agencies in this country that if you name it, like people are like, oh, they have horrible community interaction and all that stuff. But you're right, for that development of personal happiness.
Well, I didn't have the transition like you did, so maybe that's why I went to such an extreme for the happiness part, is because, like I said, I had 5 years on the road that was just very, very detrimental to my happiness, my overall happiness. I just recently had a captain friend in FD. It was so funny, when I was a rookie, show up to these accidents, and he was just a regular fireman, wasn't even an engineer or anything. Well, David took his life because of PTSD.
I know, we talked about that during our show with Josh, and I know exactly who you're talking about.
David Dangerfield down at Vero Beach, and I have goosebumps because I grew up with him. I was 23, 24 years old, going to these horrific crime scenes of the first dead baby that I ever saw, and I was able to escape it. David never could. And now, it warms my heart to know that law enforcement's making that transition to allow you, or at least for you to do it. I don't know about other people, but the Whiskey Tango is that outlet for those who can't.
No, absolutely. I get 100%. Me and Chris, the reason why we do this podcast isn't because, we want to come in here ourselves, talk to each other. It's because we like getting involved in the dialogue. There's a lot of things, that dialogue that you wanted to have in 1996, you weren't able to have a podcast place like this. I couldn't call Jesse up and say, hey, we're going to schedule it because we have some things to talk about, or because we want to pursue something. And now we can. We have social media at every angle. I mean, I'm taking 700 pictures of Chris's head right now. You will see that on Instagram later. But
very, very excited about it.
It is.
Nice.
It is, I mean, but the big thing is, it's like we have avenues that we can travel that allow us to do certain things. For me, I like doing these dialogues because I do feel that we lose a lot when we type the written word out on social media, and people, they only get what their interpretation of is that.
Yeah.
With
there's
us
no inflection. There's
Yes.
no emotion to it. They take it for face value, which oftentimes is misinterpreted.
Absolutely.
90% of communication is nonverbal. I get more out of people standing and looking at them than I do talking to them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially any of us who have done it, where we're trained in kinesics and looking at body language and all that. Kinesics is a big word for body language, just in case you didn't know, Chris. Chris was like,
write that
back
down.
to that Urban Dictionary again.
I took a verbal judo class, so
okay, you're good.
So you can.
Yeah, but when you write, I mean, a lot of it is, and that's why one of the things we talked about with Jesse is we didn't just want to stream it. As far as the audio goes, we wanted to put the video out because we wanted people to be able to see what we do, how we act, and why we're talking about this stuff. Because the good thing about your perspective is you're the perspective before my perspective and before Chris's perspective, and we can actually discuss how things have transpired over time and what gets people to that level of happiness that they need to live their life.
Exactly.
And we'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey, make sure you check out Space Cowboy Justice with your hosts, Blake Stewart and Paul Daly. We're going to be talking about interesting legal issues in the entertainment industry and everything geek. If you're into Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, comic books, we're talking about it. Coming at you from the Space Coast Podcast Studios.
You're listening to the Space Coast Podcast Network. If you'd like to be featured as a guest or sponsor, or even host your own show, please email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. That is spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. Space Coast Podcast. Talk hard.
Jesse, have you ever wondered what is the best way to interview applicants for your open position so you have the best chance of hiring a keeper?
All the time.
Well, I talk to managers every day, Jesse, that use their gut instinct to make a hire. Sometimes that works out, but more times than not, it can lead to a bad hire. Replacing a poor hire can be expensive and hurt morale. One of our most popular service offerings at HR Office Savers is teaching employers how to be better interviewers. Improved interviewing techniques lead to better hiring, which leads to better employee retention, which leads to less turnover and more profit. Contact me today to find out how you can learn to be a better interviewer. I can be reached online at www.hrofficesavers.com or by phone 928-308-4506. Again, that's 928-308-4506. 928-308-4506.
Well, that's a whole nother story. Maslow hierarchy of needs sucks, so that goes
One of the greatest scenes in cinema history.
Merry Christmas! Dinner was full!
I have this terrible suspicion that Catherine and Eddie
That's
don't
the
have any
essence of
presents.
Whiskey Tango right there.
That is.
That really is. I'm
My
not-
in-laws have a 31-foot camper that they've left at our house. So I keep threatening my wife that I'm going to recreate that scene Christmas morning.
That would be
just,
epic.
Just when she
Oh
comes
that
out.
would be
If I
epic.
can find that gnarly robe.
You know what? If you call me, I'll come over and shoot it.
There you go.
Yeah, oh,
Well,
dude, we have the
she's got
cameras.
18
We're
million
there.
cameras.
We're there.
Oh, my Lord.
You know what's funny is the little pop figurines that they make. So I actually have Clark and Eddie up on my mantle. So like that's what's at my house. You know, because it's such a classic scene. You know, I mean, it's just it is funny because when it originally came out, people were like, "Huh," and now it's just a classic. You know.
All right, before you get going on some rampage, so you have your nerdy Star Wars shirt on.
I do.
Star Wars is okay. Chris is rocking his Whiskey Tango with the Bigfoot Surfer.
Yes.
Some people listening are going to be like, Cardinals going off on freaking Bigfoot again. And some people are excited. Now, you have two believers. Explain to me, again, have you changed your thought process on this?
No, I have not changed my thought process on it. My thought process is that there's enough satellites in this world that at some point they would have caught this Bigfoot, you know, walking around. And
Really? DB Cooper, where's he at?
oh, come on.
Why don't you
DB Cooper was the uncle of a guy. That's all I'm saying.
tell Steve where you went in September.
All right, so I have some property up near Asheville, North Carolina. And every chance I get, I go up there and I see that all of a sudden Marion, North Carolina is having their first Bigfoot festival. It's about 40 miles from my property. Gives me an excuse to go up there, so I haul all my stuff up there. This wonderful Bigfoot shirt. I got my Bigfoot hat on. And I go to this Bigfoot festival in Marion, North Carolina, a small town in the mountains. It's like Mayberry. 20,000 people show up. CNN is there to cover it. It was unbelievable. 20,000 people in western North Carolina, and I don't know where they came from. They had Bigfoot calling contests. They had Bigfoot look-alike contests. They had Bigfoot evidence collection. It was unbelievable. So I know not everybody likes chocolate ice cream, and not everybody believes in Bigfoot, but there was 20,000 people up there that do. And
Hey, you know what? That may be 20,000 shirts sold. So I get it from the profit margin
I don't
aspect.
know, but I didn't go up there with the anticipation of selling that many items, and it blew my mind.
Yeah, hey man, there's people like different things. Chris likes to go to the gym, buy all sorts of weird spandex outfits. That's not me. You know,
Some people like to buy paddle boards, use them one time and throw them in a barn.
Absolutely, they're not in the barn. They're hung on shelves in my garage.
How many times have you used them?
Twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's cold right now, Chris. You know,
You've had them for a year.
Have you seen? Do you think he could fit into a wetsuit? Look at him. You
No.
think he's gonna go right now?
No, let me explain something to you.
Right, you're talking about
Every
spandex.
time I buy a wetsuit, I seem to get a size too small because by the time I put it on, it's no longer good. And I'm thinking about doing the surfing Santas thing on Christmas Eve morning, and I'm just gonna have to skin it because there ain't no way I'm gonna do anything else. But I have some insulation so I think I'll be all right. No, but my thought on like the whole Bigfoot thing, man, is like, now you ask me, do I believe in aliens? Possible. You know, there's lots of
we
stuff.
got so many satellites and GPSs. How
But
come
they don't go
nobody's
to
ever
like
seen
other
them?
universes and other stuff like that.
How do you know? You don't know what Elon Musk is doing. He's got a freaking Tesla up there somewhere.
I know. That guy's something special.
You're
man.
right. You don't know.
Now, he is the quintessential guy of saying, I do what I want.
He does,
you know?
yeah. Well, you know, and the Bigfoot for us as a motto, I feel like Bigfoot was, or at least the idea of Bigfoot was the original honey badger who just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He's doing his own thing, you know, raiding campsites, whatever, making people think he's out there hooting and hollering, you know, whatever.
Yeah, there's people. I'm gonna get hate mail now. They're gonna be the whole Squatch group is gonna be like, "What?
Yeah, you better
How do you
watch
not
yourself.
believe? You know, we got sounds. We got sounds on recordings. What do you think about? You know?
They got pictures. They got video.
Yeah, all those blurry pictures. They're about as. This is it right here. That's that silhouette. That's all you get. Walking through. I mean, it could be Chewbacca, right? It could be Chewbacca.
Chewbacca was an Ewok. Wookiee.
Oh, you shut your mouth. You shut your mouth.
Oh, did I hit a nerve?
I actually have a photograph of Chewbacca in the Bigfoot pose.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, you could say you don't believe, but I believe in Santa. Baby, it's cold outside.
Whoa. See, now we're going to get pulled off of YouTube.
You know,
I don't think we're allowed to bring up that song, are we?
We can bring up whatever we want. We are on our own podcast. We can do whatever we want.
I don't know, but I've been told that the song "Do You Hear What I Hear" is offensive to schizophrenics.
Oh my God. That was an epic dad joke. That was, you know, right there. I'm gonna have to save that one. You know, I'll go home and tell my kids that. They'll be like, "Great dad joke. Good job."
Then I'm going to have to sit down and explain to my kids what a schizophrenic is.
Yeah.
I've already been getting life lessons.
Have you
from my
met your
8-year-old.
mother? Have you met your mother?
Oh.
No, you have, and now you're going to have to deal with her. So.
Yeah.
I wasn't referring to her. That was a general response.
Oh man, but you know, it's always funny because, you know, like you said, everybody has their own thing. They want to go out and, you know, squatch hunt or whatever they call that, where they yell in the woods and do. Hey, you know what?
And again, that's the root of Whiskey Tango. If that's what makes them happy, who are we to judge their pursuit of happiness? As long as it's not illegal or immoral and they're having a good time, not socially understood, go do it.
You know,
go do it.
And I'm with you because I've been trying to get Chris to cover that tattoo on his arm.
Which one is that?
That beautiful dragon. I call it. That's Rexia, the dragon. But he won't do it because that dragon makes him happy.
There you go.
I won't do it because my wife won't allow me. Plus, it reminds me of mistakes when I'm 18.
God bless you. Yeah.
Things you do when you're 18 will haunt you 20 years later.
But do you notice the majestic orb and the mystical smoke?
I like how we started talking about how big of a nerd you are, and you're trying to turn it back on me and my dragon tattoo.
Everybody knows I'm a nerd. I mean, come on.
And everybody knows I have a skinny dragon on my arm. It's got fire burning out of its tail for some reason. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's got fire on the tail. It's holding the green orb. It only got a couple arms.
It's a Whiskey Tango moment.
That was straight whiskey.
But you know,
that was 1998.
is.
Everybody needs a Chinese dragon. I got to go get me one.
If you tore the sleeves off that shirt and walked in right now, I'd be like, yep.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
All I'm missing on this side is like a Goldberg tribal tattoo.
Yeah.
That's
a pit bull head. It's got to be a tribal of a pit bull head.
Older version of Joe Dirt right there.
So going into 2019, obviously the Christmas season's here. We have, Chris and I have kids. Do you have kids?
I do. They're grown, though, because I started law enforcement in 91.
Oh, yeah.
They're 23 and 25.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a great day when they leave the house.
Yeah, like after Chris Vaughn's Trent out of jail.
Yes.
He's like, Nora's going to kill me.
I'm in so much trouble when I get home.
Yeah. But, you know, in the pursuit of happiness and moving forward, you know, there's a lot of people that are in the place that you were. And I got to say, I mean, in a place probably a lot of us have been at some point in our existence where we're like, what is next? What do I do that's next? How do I get to that point where I don't feel my personal theory is we build our own walls. We build our own walls. Like
we do. That's true.
If you say, hey, I can't do something, that's a wall you're building for yourself.
Unless Congress won't fund it.
Yeah, unless Congress won't fund it. So put up. There we go. There's Chris's political stab for the day.
And you got all my political knowledge.
Yeah. So, but like Chris, you know, Chris right now, he's been working hard, working details and stuff so that he can get himself a boat because that's part of what Chris's goal is for his happiness.
I have recently changed my goals, and I'd like to remodel my house to make my wife happy.
Oh.
That is
there we
what
go.
I'm going to do.
There it is.
Wow.
The in quotations.
Was I looking at the right camera?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're
camera
good.
1, camera 2, camera 1.
So, for Chris, that's something that he's building towards. Obviously, we all have our goals, but a lot of people put themselves in a bind. One of the things we talk about with law enforcement, military, firefighters, we all do it. We get that job, the young guys that get that job, and the first thing they do is they're like, I'm buying that sweet King Ranch truck. And they put themselves under a $700 payment. Then they... Oh.
Was it getting it used?
Yeah. Just throwing it out there because I'm looking at their, what they're making.
Somebody had a down payment. Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but thinking about things like that where they're, they're putting their own walls up and then they get stuck. And then they're like, well, now what am I supposed to do? I can't afford to go to college because now I have all these payments. Trying to move up. I'm trying to do all these different things. And, one of the things that we've been suggesting is, we tell them, hey, pace yourself. Don't be going to do this stuff because a lot of people bind themselves in these walls. And going into the new year, there's a lot of people right now that are saying, well, I would do all this. I would love to go chase my dream. I would love to go pursue this happiness, but I'm confined by bills. I'm confined by this. I'm a single mom. I'm a single dad. How do I find that happiness with no budget and a lot of obligations?
Are you asking me for that answer?
Oh, I'm asking in general. Even if Jesse wants to throw in here, look at Jesse's over there smiling like I have opportunities.
Well, I would say this: going through life, I would never spend anybody else's money because spending other people's money, they want it paid back, and then they want this. They call it interest rate. It's really extortion. So if you don't spend other people's money, then that leaves more in your pocket. So. I would say if you really want to be happy, pay cash. There's nothing more satisfying than know you own it and you own it outright. For that guy who wants to buy that King Ranch, go ahead and buy that King Ranch. But I wouldn't buy it unless I put half of it down and finance the other half because you're upside down. And even then, if you'll have a low interest rate, which is good, you're spending other people's money, but you still owe them.
Yeah.
So if you can't afford to pay cash for it, don't buy it. That's one way. If you can eliminate that. The other thing is, get a tattoo with a fucking fire tail so you don't make that mistake again.
It will always remind you of bad decisions.
Yes,
there you go.
That's
that right there. I might have to have a shirt like that. Yeah. It says "Hold my beer" with a dragon.
You can take a picture and put it right on there.
Oh, God. Just have him flex
See?
one for you.
Now
We'll
you're
take a
about to get
snapshot.
Your whole making fun of my dragon's about to backfire on your ass.
You know what? And there's always a positive, no matter how bad your life is. If you look into something, I like to call it more than one way to skin a cat. But any challenge that I've ever had, I think is God's way of challenging me to be creative to find another answer. So I don't look at it as a negative. I never look at it as a negative. I look at it as a challenge because if you see me off the bar stool, I'm same as you guys, but I'm really 5'6". So going into law enforcement and taking big guys to jail, I was on the SWAT team. People tell me, no, you can't do it. What? Cool. Don't tell me no, because I will find another way. It gives me a chance to be creative to show what I can do that makes me an asset. So anything bad that happens, look at it as a challenge to be creative to find the solution.
Cool. We're going to touch more on that when we get right back from this break.
A lot of people want to know what the paper clinic is. And honestly, the paper clinic is a lot of things. It's a collaborative space where you can come and bounce ideas off other professionals. You can get advice from professionals in the field. You can get legal advice, insurance advice, and you can be the expert. You can advise people as to things that you know about. But the paper clinic's a lot more than that. When the paper clinic works together, it becomes a one-stop shop for anybody who wants to start a business. You can walk right in one door of the paper clinic and you can get your business formed, you can get your business insured, you can get a tax plan, you can get marketing, and you can walk right out the other side of the paper clinic with a turnkey business. The Paper Clinic. Big firm resources for the small business. Check us out on the web, thepaperclinic.com, or on Facebook at The Paper Clinic.
You're listening to the Space Coast Podcast Network. If you'd like to be featured as a guest or sponsor or even host your own show, please email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. That is spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com.
Space Coast Podcast. Talk hard.
It's nice and cold. Yeah, I could really use some space here. Oh, this is kind of cool. Really?
No.
Oh,
You're a big boy. What's your name?
Paul.
And what can I get you for Christmas?
Don't tell him what you want. He's a liar.
Let the kid talk.
You disgust me. How can you live with yourself?
Just cool it, Zippy.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Look, I'm not kidding.
You're a fake.
I'm a fake?
Yes.
How'd you like to be dead? Huh? No, he's kidding.
You stink.
I think you're gonna have a good Christmas, all
You
right?
smell like beef and cheese. You don't smell like Santa.
Okay.
Oh! He's a monster! He's a fake! He's a fake! He's a fake!
Oh my! All I heard out of that was 2202, 2203, fight in progress.
No, that's one of my favorite scenes. That was one I had to pick out because every time I hear him say "you sit on a throne of lies," it just cracks me up. But back to what you're talking about on the whole pursuit of happiness aspect of it. I think for a lot of us, it took, especially if you work in a job where I think a lot of people work in jobs where they're not making $1 million. They're not that 2% or however you want to call it, the 1% that are making hand over fist money all the time. So for a lot of people, they're trying to figure out a way to budget their lives and live their lives, and how do they do that? And I think a lot of times we were told that in order for you to be living your lives, you have to be spending money to live your lives, and that's not true.
No, that is not true. I have found that the most primitive happiness is what we really strive for. Anything that we do or where we go is always to the primitive self, the most simple self. Now, I got to be honest, I've seen a huge epidemic of drug use.
Absolutely.
All right, now, if you really look at why there's a lot of drug use, is because it is inherent in us to want to alter our consciousness. And we've been doing it since we were this big, hanging upside down on the monkey bars or on the merry-go-round. However we do to get dizzy, the kids were altering their consciousness. Now, as we get older, altering our consciousness is a state of unreality. And people who don't know how to deal with their problems ultimately get into these drug addictions where they're altering their consciousness to escape their reality to this unreality. But the chemicals they're using to alter their consciousness to make them feel good are so detrimental. If you go back to the primitive things that really make you happy to alter your consciousness, and I'm talking like sit on the beach at 6 a.m. and watch the sunrise. Now, I'm not a morning person, so just being awake at that time in the morning is altering my chemical makeup where I'm not myself. And to see and experience watching the sunset over on the river, jumping out of an airplane, parachuting, surfing, going to watch a Star Wars movie, riding a roller coaster, whatever it is, the most primitive self, if you can get back to that part, to alter your consciousness, to give you those good feelings, they don't cost anything.
No, I got to tell you, I think the most peace I feel is when I'm surfing. Like just being able to be out there, and you almost feel insignificant in that massive ocean, and how powerful the water is. Anybody who's ever surfed in big waves, and I'll even go even smaller waves, say 6 to 7 foot waves, where that crashes and you get tossed over, and you feel your body is out of control. There's nothing you can do to regain that control until the water decides to let it go. And I think that's how people feel when they put themselves in debt, like they don't have control. And for me, even that piece of being able to pop up out of it, and that's that mind altering where you come up and you're like, oh, okay, I'm ready for round 2. Let's go paddle back out and enjoy this.
In the surfing, you know, I don't want to disagree with you, but I think the ultimate happiness is when you are actually in control of that massive amount of water that you can't harness that.
No,
and
absolutely.
you suddenly saddled this to get some kind of joy and pleasure.
That
But
ride is where it's at.
Let me tell you, when you pop your head up out of that white water and you're alive and you grab your board and you climb on top, climb back on top, for those people that are in debt, if you're climbing back on top of your board and you're paddling out, that means you're making your payments on time.
Yep.
You're not ahead. Maybe you made a double payment. That's when you're paddling back out.
Yep.
The next thing you know, you're even keel. But you have to do the hard work. Paddling through whitewater is not an easy thing.
No,
And
absolutely.
if you think you're going to be rewarded for surfing on a glassy face wave, you're sadly mistaken because you have sets to paddle through, you know, 6, 7 wave set to get through to enjoy the reward.
Yep.
So if you're in debt, all I'm going to say is to anybody who's listening, just paddle through. Every wave you paddle over to get to that set is nirvana.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, when you're on that face again, you're ahead of the curve. Quit spending that money that belongs to somebody else. Pay it off.
Yeah, and
you didn't realize what's going to happen to me now when I get home.
No.
Chris said you're not getting a boat because you don't have $30,000 saved
Yeah.
up.
Pay half
Right.
up front. Say,
See? So
if
I
you
can-
have 15 grand, then you can make that argument. Hey,
Detail
look,
money.
Right. The other thing I'm going to hear is, well, yeah, but look, this is how much these floors cost, and this is how much you saved up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could get the floors.
Yeah.
You know,
Happy
that's
wife,
on
happy
you.
life.
Right, well, I think
But that
we all
goes
know
back
how
to
this
that
game
nirvana
ends.
of happy wife, happy life, right?
Right.
You know?
You sit on a throne of lies.
Yeah. So, you know,
I love you.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, as we go through, I can think of there's people in college right now that are like struggling just to get through their stuff or getting to, you know, they're just starting out their careers or just starting to do things. And, you know, it is a good philosophy of just paddle through it because there is brighter days. There is that payoff in the end. And even with that happiness mindset of it, you know, I'm a happy person in general. Chris will tell you, you know, I'm pretty optimistic most of the time. If I get upset, it's probably something that most people would get upset about.
No.
But what? Like what?
Like if the Lightning lose.
Oh well,
That's beyond your control.
It's
That's beyond your control. What can you
beyond
do
my
about
control,
that?
you know.
If
But-
you were out there and you missed a check, or you know, or you fanned on blocking on a goal, that's on you. But you're not out there on that ice.
Yeah, no.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah, thank the
You're
Lord.
not on that
Yeah,
ice.
'cause that's what the
tried
Lightning
one
want.
time, and-
Yeah, it didn't go so well. That's what they want. The Lightning want a 5'8.5".
Yeah,
5'9" with my boots
wow,
on.
You're giving yourself a lot
5'9"
of credit.
with my boots on.
Come on,
Hey,
come
you
on.
Don't be a
5'9"
hater
with my
now.
boots on.
No,
Don't you-
what are you wearing?
How tall
3
you-
inch
Hey,
inch
man,
boots?
I'm 5'6" in person, but I'm like 6'5"
in heart.
Yeah.
In heart.
On the internet, I'm 6'7".
Yeah. It's not the size of the lion in the fight. It's the fight in the lion,
fine,
dog.
absolutely. That's
I
what I've been
still
saying
think there's a
long
lot to
time.
do with the size of the lion.
Really, you want to get bit?
Oh.
Hey, at the zoo they have 2 fences because even the old lions bite you.
But you know, it's good. You know, speaking on happiness and going into 2019, you know, good talk because as we've been able to move forward in our lives and in our career, I think what's helped me is, you know, however it is, whether it's family support, friend support, good people in your life, that developing that environment that is successful for you as an individual. Don't put yourself in. I think you made a great example about when you left law enforcement and you got into the teaching thing. You took yourself out of an environment that wasn't necessarily pleasing for you at the end, and you got into something that was benefiting what you felt was the entire community. And that probably took a huge weight on your mind.
Well, you know, I'll be 52 in March, so I've had a vast life experience, and I have found that we as a human tend to gravitate towards the things that are easiest for us. All right, so like if you're in school and studying and you look at 7 subjects that you have to take, and history is ultimately the easiest one for you, next thing you know, you're a history major because you can excel at it. So I have found over the years through my life experiences what Maslow's hierarchy of needs says is self-actualization, what you're really meant for. Luckily for me, I was able to recognize the direction that I was going that put me to where I am now, where I am so completely happy with everything that I do in my life. Because when I look back at being an adolescent to today, I am where I was meant to be. and I'm happy doing it. So, if people look at the direction they're going or what their strengths are, they can actually start pushing themselves in the direction that's easy for them, that they're good at, that doesn't take a lot of work, and it ultimately will make them happy because it's rewarding.
Absolutely.
That's self-actualization.
And it is a constant assessment of your strengths and your weaknesses. If these are your strengths, rely on your strengths while you're developing your weaknesses. If you are hurting for cash because you're still in a low-paying job or whatever, and you're going to school, start looking at the things that are the positives, because those other things are going to catch up as you're moving forward. But it's all about those reasonable goals with reasonable time frames. If you say I want to be a millionaire, you can't be a millionaire tomorrow. You have to set those reasonable goals to get to that point. But with every goal you reach, that's more happiness. That's that next step.
Yeah. Well, I got to be honest with you. To be a millionaire, you don't need $1 million.
Oh yeah.
You don't need $1 million. What you need to find is that happiness, that primitive happiness I'm talking about.
Yep.
Because I'm not a millionaire, and there isn't anything that I want for.
No,
Nothing.
absolutely.
Maybe that King Ranch you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe that King Ranch.
Here's the one thing that jobs taught me is that really rich people have the same problems really poor people and middle class people do. Their problems are just more expensive.
And
they got the same bills. It's just at a different, percentage wise, it's the same. It's just a higher number.
Yep. Yeah. I think for most people, especially when your parents and when your kids were younger, the things that you wanted were, I want my kids to have the life that I want them to have. And how do I achieve that? And because going back to Christmas morning, the Christmas morning isn't for the parents necessarily, it's for the kids, but it really is for the parents, because when you give those kids those presents and they open that present from dad and they see all the presents under the tree from Santa and they open them all up and, they come out and they look at you and they just have that look in their eyes. That's that happiness. That's that primal happiness of, wow, that look.
That's $1 million.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think for a lot of us, that's that desire. That's that mode. For me, in my job, I even doing things like walking in parades and doing stuff like that, when you get to flip the candy to the kids and you get to see their little faces or they want to do the high fives, that's the stuff that sets that even keel. Yeah, you may have to deal with that teacher who blames you for her mistake. That's her mistake. She put herself in the back of that car. You didn't put her in the back of that car. And that's a lot of people. But they're going to blame you because everybody has to have that escape. When something's going wrong, they want to blame you. But you know what? I know. I've resolved myself to know that I did not do that to them. They did that to themselves. I just have to keep everybody else in the world safe. So if you're driving home drunk, you are a risk not only to yourself, but to 50 other people that you just passed driving down the street. And I'm sorry that this is your decision, but that was your decision. And I get that. And, sometimes it sucks. People call you names, people call you whatever you want, and you go, oh my God, what a crap day, man. I have to deal with this crap all day. But then on that way home, there's that little kid that sees you in your uniform, get out of your car to go get into the Circle K to grab a drink, and they're just smiling and waving, and you're like, that's why I just did what I did, because I had to protect that kid. That's the kid I had to protect.
There definitely is a larger message. There's a larger motivation behind what I did as a law enforcement officer, why I did it. I mean, I knew people that weren't as genuinely pure as I was. Not that I'm great, but yeah, we need to look for those. And I'm glad that you have those opportunities to see that. I wish there was more in the community that reached out to us as a law enforcement community. I posted something on Facebook today about what a soulmate was. And soulmates is not that person that you thought you were meant with. It's that person that makes you smile in the morning, that just seeing them lights you up, all right? And I wrote, if you have that soulmate in your life, you should just turn to them and say thank you. Just thank you.
Absolutely.
And there's not enough thank yous in the world anymore.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome, Steve.
And that's one of the easiest things, is to show that gratitude and that appreciation for who's in our life and what they're doing for our life, whether it's law enforcement. I mean, ultimately, you don't know what I do now, but ultimately I see criminal defendants after they've been incarcerated for about 3 or 4 months, and they are thankful for being arrested, because the drug problems or whatever problem that they had that got them arrested, if they'd have continued, they'd be dead.
No,
so after
absolutely.
3 or 4 months, when the drugs have subsided and left their system, they know that you can see them as the person that they are, and they're not bad people, and they are thankful that they got caught.
No, I think a lot of people, when you see an addict, they automatically go, oh, an addict. But realistically, they're human beings that have a horrible addiction. And, you know, if you woke up every morning when you're trying to quit using an opiate and you're going through withdrawals and it's diarrhea and excessive vomiting and you just feel like hell, and you know that with one pill or one shot, all of that will go away. That's that cycle. You know, I have a friend, and I really hope that one day she's willing to come on here and talk. But she is, I think she's, I can't remember, 7 or 8 years recovered now, and her story is amazing. And I've heard her speak, and if you met her, you would be like, you would never see that past was with her. But what she's done to correct that addiction and to be such a prosperous and awesome human being, and she's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. She had an addiction. That was it, you know, and now here's this person who contributes so much to society and so much towards rehabilitation that it is just an incredibly powerful moment just to watch her speak. And that is that what you get to see. And I've had, she actually called me one day and said, hey, if you could ever figure out who it was that arrested me,
yeah,
please let them know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You saved my life.
Because that time that I sat there was what got me out of that.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of that goes on. And I've had people come up and, you know, say, hey, you know so-and-so, can you thank him for me? Or, hey, thank you for, you know, you were always cool even when I was at my bottom of my barrel.
Yep.
And that's what kind of got me out of it. Because a lot of times we are that glimmer of hope, even though we're putting them in the back of a patrol car. I mean, I can tell you, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people saying, hey, I know there's something other than this inside of you. This is what is right now, but it's not maybe what's going to be. You just have to make that decision because I can't make it for you. You have to make
Life is about redemption. It's
Absolutely.
about recovery. You know, you don't judge a man on their mistakes. You judge a man or woman on how they
or whatever you want to identify
right.
as.
Exactly. Whoever you are.
Chris identifies as an athlete.
I have gold medals. What do you have? Participation ribbons?
You're the only guy in the weight class, Chris. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
The only guy in the weight class. That's
there
awesome.
were 2.
Oh man.
Yeah, but redemption is there for anyone and anyone who wants it. And you can't judge a person by their mistake. You judge them by how they recover from their mistakes, because there's a lot, like your brilliant friend. You know, I'm glad they had opportunity, and I know the people that I talked to were thankful. They were, you know, I'm in jail looking at 15 years. Thank you for arresting me. Such a weird message, but yeah, it did save their life. So now they're looking at possible life after 15 years.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh no, go ahead.
I just said, you know, that's that glimmer of hope is, you know, what a lot of people are chasing. You know, and then when they get there, they turn around and they are thankful. I mean, I got to tell you, like, I know Chris is thankful for his wife. I'm thankful for my wife. Jesse should definitely be thankful for his wife because, I mean, look at Jesse. I mean, really. No, I'm joking. We were talking earlier. His wife is like professional bodybuilding, whatever she does, right? And like, then there's me, Jesse, and Chris who are like, oh God, I had to do a squat to pick that box up, you know.
Look, man, I may have a gut. I squat though. Very nimble.
But you know,
nimble. Yeah, that's right.
I think that's a good word. That's a good word.
But you know, nimber's a bedroom move. I don't know what's going on there.
But you know, like for me, I look at my life, and with my wife and I are our partner. We're a team. You know, without I don't see how a lot of single parents do it, man. I hands up to single parents out there, because if you got a couple of kids and you're trying to get to baseball practice and dance and this and that and the other thing, man, it'll run you silly. You know, you're tired. And then you got to put food on the table and everything else that goes along with it. But you know, my wife is awesome for all the things that she does. You know, I'm always thankful for her. Plus, she looks way better than me. So like, she's way out. I out-punted my coverage.
You out-punted your coverage.
Yeah, this is not just me kissing butt right now. Chris will tell you, I definitely out-kicked my. What is it?
You out-kicked
football
your coverage.
That's a football term, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Football term. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll show you.
So you're telling me that she's looking for you to start your redemption?
I need to pick up more boxes. I think that's the problem.
Start doing something.
But you know, I cook. That's what I do. I cook. So
okay. Well, there's some value.
Yeah. Ding! I found myself. There we go, everybody. But you know, with this, go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say. So I think going into 2019, the message is just find what makes you happy and figure out how you have to get there. And if you're not there right away, just remember to stay positive while like you said, while you're paddling through the sets, while you're trying to get there. Just know that the goal is there. You just have to work through it and accept the small goals. Like you're talking about, if you're trying to pay off bills, be excited that you doubled up a payment or that you gave them $1 more than the minimum. Just know that those goals.
Or that you're making your payments.
Right.
Well, you know what, too, is self-acceptance, to accept the fact that you're behind the 8 ball. If once you accept that, you don't have to beat yourself up over it, So how do you get out of it? You do exactly that. You take those little steps, add and contribute a little bit more. Don't spend other people's money. Make those payments. Feel good about what you're doing. Be happy. Be happy in the moment. Live in today.
I think it's a great way to close out 2018 for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say thank you to Jesse, who's always here. You've given us a place to have a voice and being able to have conversations like this.
Now we just got to hope some people listen.
Yeah. Well, we do. We actually have quite a few listeners, just so you guys know.
We're doing better.
But we, this is our 4th podcast, and every single time I'm watching the viewers and listeners jump up, and it's awesome. But, Jesse took a risk with, building this whole studio out, and the Space Coast podcast was great when we originally started having the conversation about doing something like this, because the goal has always been to create that open line of communication to where maybe we can help people who are in the exact same situation but don't know how to voice it and don't know how to get to that next level, to achieve that happiness, to get through those waves and move forward. And this has been a great avenue for us, and we definitely thank Jesse for everything. So with that,
Jesse, I want to thank Chris for coming on today, brother.
Hey, well,
take a second to plug some Whiskey Tango.
Well, I'm going to tell you, any of your listeners, if they ever need anything from me, I'm available. You can hit me up at coastalgroupinvestigations@yahoo.com for anything that you need. Also, if you want to check out my Whiskey Tango stuff, you can go to whiskeytangolife.com. I got a little a YouTube video. It's the meaning of life according to Whiskey Tango. But I appreciate you guys having me. Hopefully I get to see you again. And
yeah, absolutely.
Have a Merry Christmas. Live the Whiskey Tango life. It's in you, bro.
Awesome, brother.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys. Be safe, everyone. Have a Merry Christmas.